Hello, everybody. It's the weekend. It's AJ. It's the Mighty Glue Stick, and it's the continuation of our giant series. Today, we'll be covering the children of Stronmaus, the child of Anam, god of the giants, the storm giants. Storm giants are the most civilized and the highest in the rank of the ordning of the giants of giant kind. They're also one of the more secluded and one of the more sort of nice guys, really, of the giant world. You will find them at the top of mountain peaks, like the very top, or floating on cloud castles. Awesome constructions of magic and might, or deep undersea in dark rifts and ancient fortresses carved in the form of serpents and skulls, contemplating the universe, or perhaps in great caverns below the sea, uh, or in underground seas, or places that are just like really, really hard to get to, and they live high up and above the world, looking down upon it, so high up that dragons are mere specks flying through the sky below them. They raise rocks and griffins as pets. They have amazing sea creatures which are considered monstrous or wondrous at their beck and call, and they raise them and their crops in relative peace and solitude as they contemplate the long years between the rise of the giants and the current situation and possible rise again. And they look for signs and portents and examine uh, the histories of entire empires in their long 600-year lifespans. Now, storm giants are the largest of the giant kind. They can stand easily over 20 to 26 feet tall. They're massive, huge. It's hard to comprehend just how big a 26 foot humanoid would look. But if you imagine that you're up, standing at the top, on the top of a second-story building, you'd be staring one in the face. They're that tall. It's similar to that Jurassic Park scene where they're looking at the Brontosaurus walking around for the first time, and you get that perspective of that thing standing next to a pine tree, munching on the top branches. Yeah, well, that's how big they are. And you think about just the power and the might of something which is not a small thing grown to large size and unwieldy, but relatively skillful and dexterous for its size. Next to stone giants, they are the most dexterous. They have a dexterity of 14. They have a tremendous strength of 29, so they could arm wrestle a red dragon. They have an armor class of 16, hit points of 230. They're a challenge rating of 13, so they're right up there. But they're relatively good. I mean, they're chaotic good, sort of. They follow their own dictates. They don't follow laws of lesser beings. As far as they're concerned, the world is theirs, and they have an interest in the goings on of the lesser races, but generally speaking, stay off their lawn. Other giants, and particularly wise people, come to the storm giants because they know how to read the signs, the portents of the heavens and the earth. And if you come to them with the utmost respect and gratitude, they are charming and gracious hosts. They are not overly aggressive per se, unless you catch them on a bad day or a bad decade. They have their own lives. They live 600 years, obviously. They live a long time, and their courtships and things like that mean a lot to them, and they spend a lot of time contemplating and doing things slowly and carefully. They love to compose music and play amazing ballads and things like that, which will haunt you the rest of your days. But of course, it's very hard to get to them. They live at the bottom of the sea. In 5th edition now, they can breathe water, so I see no reason why they wouldn't live at the bottom of the ocean all the time, battling leviathans and keeping things chained up at the bottom of the ocean, keeping Cthulhu asleep with ballads, haunting ballads sung to its grisly mass. They know magic, and I would manifest this in encounters with giants without even worrying about what spells they actually have listed in the spell book, unless it's directly affecting the player characters and their fate. Give them whatever magic you want. Make them very impressive with their wizardry. So have them do really impressive things with the environment around them. let them talk to each other through lightning bolts, let them have the equivalent of a cathode ray television crystal, or some of the ancient technologies and things that they just take for granted that are wondrous to anybody else who witnessed them. But they, in appearance, they dress very simply. They're kind of like Zeus. They walk around with very ornate, lovely tunics and belted up sandals and things, but very little else. They don't really need any clothing and things because they are very resistant to cold and stuff. They have very nice arm rings or ankle rings or circlets or torques or diadems or crowns that they wear. But that's about the only sort of jewelry that they wear, and most of it will be very practical. It'll be enchanted. It'll be very useful as a cell phone. They don't really carry around ostentatious stuff. They don't need it because they spend a lot of their time alone, and their wealth is not their measure of power, unless that's what their focus is, in which case you're in big trouble. When a storm giant takes a greedy interest in the lesser races, they are a terrible force of destruction and oppression. Terrible. They can absolutely devastate a civilization just with the weather alone. The ability to manipulate storms is one of their trademarks. The ability to throw lightning bolts at the flick of a switch, kaboom, is devastating. And they can do that, all the time. But of course, for the majority of them, you would never know they were there. They stand aloof from civilization and watch it like benevolent, living, mortal gods. And in many cases, they are worshipped as gods by lesser races, and rightfully so in some cases, because their presence will calm storms and make sea travel possible and give long periods, centuries of prosperity. If the storm giants are in a good mood, they could benefit the trade of an entire culture for hundreds of years. Think about how powerful that is and how much somebody would be grateful for that. The Mediterranean, for instance, is a pretty nice, safe water to travel through, so it resulted in a cradle of civilization. So there, just a simple action of calming the waters can have an effect for hundreds of years over an entire race of mortal people. So bear that in mind. They live for a very long time. Not as long as some elves, I guess, but they are elven in their outlook. But of course, unlike elves, they take offense to things very personally and very quickly. If you come at them with ill intent in your heart, they will know. They'll know of your attempts to get to them before you get there, because of that ability to divine the future, and they will be ready. And the moment you piss them off, that's it. It's all over. 26 foot of muscled madness coming down on you with a massive hammer or something. They do favor weapons rather than boulders, and they craft particularly fine ones. They can spend centuries making wicked magical items of huge size, and they have magic. Of course, they love to throw spells. The magic that they have listed in the book is, I would imagine, just a sampling. I mean, no two player characters are particularly alike in their magic choices, so there's no reason why the very individual storm giants wouldn't be completely homogenous as well. So it gives them a DC 17 spell save, which is pretty generous, and they've got detect magic, featherfall, levitate, light, control weather, water breathing, although I don't know why they've got that, considering that they've given them the ability to breathe water or air anyway. They're amphibious, so a bit of a question mark. But certainly give them all sorts of elemental powers. That's their focus. Their ability to manipulate storms could manifest itself in all sorts of different ways. A power over electricity, generally speaking, shock and grasp, magnetism, that sort of thing. Just give them all sorts of powers like that. Floating discs, force fields, barriers, static charges, all sorts of stuff. Have animated swords and things which just float around, do their bidding. Even automatons, robots, iron golems, that sort of thing. Their fortresses, they spend hundreds and hundreds of years there, and they probably don't want to cook their meals every single day, so they most likely have servants and things like that to do it for them. Why not have a programmed robot? For sure. They've been around for thousands and thousands of years. There's no reason why they couldn't have some sort of high technology, but of course manifesting itself like magic. In combat, they can throw rocks, but they favour great swords and lightning strikes. Obviously, the lightning strikes are devastating. They can hurl them 500 feet, well beyond the range of most mortal races, apart from longbows and things like that. DC 70 dexterity saving throw and 54 points of boomstick damage. Nasty. So well before you can even get within melee range of these things, they've basically turned you into a Christmas tree. Yeah, devastating. Um, Other than that, they really are reclusive and spend a lot of their time not having anything to do with the giants, lording it over the giants or the ordning in general. The respect they have from other giants is that they are the closest remnant to what was giant society. They have not really changed in all of that time. They have a sense of nobility and civilization about them that lets you know that here is the indigenous race of the planet in their original form. This is the architecture of their temples, their fortresses, their grottos, their summer homes, wherever their layers of contemplation, the libraries that they have of carved literature, the techniques and technologies they have been widely copied and passed down by secret societies and things like that. They are the source of a lot of their divination magics and runes and things like that. They predate the dwarves. They have all of the smithing and things that dwarves do would be copied from what giants did. And yeah, anything that all the other races can do, the giants have done better, bigger, and first. So yeah, if you're going up against a storm giant, be prepared for anything. Draw upon every resource you can think of as a dungeon master of epic, ancient badassery. They can let out genies in a bottle, summon wraiths from bones scattered around their floor. Anything, little tricks like that, just like a mere gesture, could really mess up your day. And the storm giants will be, at the same time, their culture is peaceful, contemplative. They favour kindness and benevolence to lesser beings. They don't really feel like they need to kill everyone to reclaim their destiny. All they want to do is find a way of drawing their gods back to them and restoring themselves to the preeminence that they deserve. Uh, in many ways, they're resigned to their fate of relatively sparse numbers and seclusion because their god turned away from them because of things that happen. So they take their family vows and their faithfulness very seriously. But of course, he slight them, and they are reminded once again of how far their civilization has fallen, such that these sniveling, tiny, weeny little sub-goblin beings can threaten them, or the arrogance and the hubris of the small graces sometimes gets to them, and they just want to swat them like flies. And that's very much what it's like when you anger one of these things. Whoa, shit! Yeah, you'd be lucky to get over alive. Of course, do something in their favor, and they can benefit your entire civilization, certainly your family, lay massive wealth at your feet in thanks for your favors. So yeah, certainly a great patron to have and a terrible enemy. Storm Giants.